I am a living man employed among the dead. Those words were written in a London grave robber's diary in 1831. The body he was digging up that night? A 10-year-old girl, buried just 6 hours earlier. Her family was crying less than half a mile away, completely unaware that strangers were breaking into their daughter's grave. By sunrise, her corpse would be on a surgeon's table, dissected before medical students. But here's what'll genuinely mess with your head. That surgeon was knighted 15 years later. The grave robber died wealthy, owning 3 London houses, and that girl's body taught a heart valve technique that saved 4 million lives. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Europe's most respected medical institutions were criminal enterprises, why royalty feared their graves, and why the truth about body snatching is more disturbing than horror stories. Because what happened wasn't theft, it was far more complicated. It's 1752, Edinburgh, Scotland. You're 23 years old with 3 younger siblings depending entirely on you. Your father died from typhus 2 weeks ago. You have exactly 2 options: watch your family slowly starve, or do something that might get you hanged. A surgeon's assistant approaches you in a tavern on a Thursday night, doesn't introduce himself, doesn't make small talk, just slides a coin across the scarred wooden table, more than 2 months of legitimate wages for honest work, and whispers one single word: tonight. Everyone knows what he's asking. Everyone knows this conversation happens in taverns across the city. Everyone pretends not to know. That's how Edinburgh works. That's how the whole system survives. You've already made your decision before the coin even hits the table. Your sister needs medicine that costs exactly what he's offering. Your landlord threatened eviction yesterday. The choice was made 3 days ago when you ran out of food and started considering options you never thought you'd consider in your entire life. You take the coin. It's warm from his pocket, still carrying his body heat. You'll remember that specific detail for the rest of your life, how warm it felt compared to everything that comes next. That night, you meet 2 other men at the cemetery gates just past midnight. The leader, a man with calloused hands and dead eyes, doesn't introduce himself, just hands you a wooden spade, the kind that doesn't make metallic sounds when it hits stones, and says something that doesn't make sense yet. If you survive the first one, you'll survive them all. Most men don't make it past 1. You assume he means getting caught, the law, the gallows. You're wrong, but you won't understand what he really means until later. The digging is easier than expected. The earth is soft, loosened by recent rain. 3 feet down, your spade hits wood with a dull thud that echoes in your chest. The cheap pine coffin cracks easily. You'll learn later that the wealthy use iron-reinforced caskets specifically to prevent what you're doing right now. You pry the lid open with the edge of your spade. And there she is, an old woman, probably died of consumption judging by how thin she is, buried this afternoon, which makes her valuable, fresh. Your hands are shaking so badly you can barely hold the spade. The experienced man sighs, annoyed by your hesitation. First-timers always freeze. You want to eat this month or not? He doesn't wait for your answer. He grabs the corpse under the arms and hauls it out of the coffin like a sack of grain. Her head lolls backward, mouth slightly open, and you think you're going to sick. You catch her legs when he tells you to. She's heavier than you expected, despite being so thin. Dead weight, the phrase suddenly makes horrible, visceral sense in a way you'll never forget. You carry her through the dark cemetery, stumbling over uneven ground, to a cart waiting in the alley behind the church. The surgeon's assistant is there with a lantern, examining her by the flickering light. He checks her teeth like he's buying a horse, examines her fingers for signs of decay, looks for anything that might reduce her value. Fresh enough, he declares after a moment, and hands over your payment without ceremony. 3 coins. That's what a human being is worth. Same time tomorrow? Not next week, tomorrow. The medical schools are insatiable. You've become part of the machine feeding them. You nod. Your hands smell of grave dirt and something sweet and rotten that soap won't wash away. The resurrection man claps your shoulder. You're dead inside now, makes the job easier. You laugh. You'll stop laughing within a month when you realize he was telling the truth.
3 months in, you've learned something nobody warned you about. The human body becomes abstract surprisingly fast when you need it to. That's not somebody's grandmother anymore. That's product. That's tonight's delivery. That's 8 pounds if she's fresh, 6 if she's not. You've also learned the professional tricks of the trade. Winter is prime season. Bodies decompose slower in the cold, which means they're worth substantially more money. You read obituaries like hunting guides, attend funerals to scout grave locations and assess security. You've memorized which cemeteries have weak fences, which watchmen can be bribed, which ones have guard dogs, always the dogs. They can smell death on you even when you scrubbed your clothes raw. Edinburgh has approximately 30 full-time resurrection men working every night. London has over 100. There are gangs, territories, price wars, and professional specializations. One crew specializes exclusively in children. They're worth more per pound because small bodies fit better on dissection tables. Another focuses on workhouse graveyards where nobody guards the dead poor. You meet them sometimes at the taverns where you all drink away what you've seen. Nobody talks about the work directly. You have code words. Night fishing, some call it, the resurrection trade, or just the business, said with a particular inflection that everyone understands. One night, a man named William Burke sits down beside you. Friendly guy, always smiling. Successful, clearly. He's wearing nicer clothes than most resurrection men can afford. He's always got fresh bodies to sell, you've heard, but he never has grave dirt under his nails, never complains about frozen ground or aggressive watchmen like the rest of you do. You ask him his secret. "I've got a system," he says, grinning. "Cuts out the middle part entirely, the digging, the dirt, all that messy grave work." You're impressed. You lean in and ask him to explain his method. He winks conspiratorially. "Maybe I'll show you sometime. Could use a partner." You'll read about him in the newspapers 3 years later, and the story will haunt you for the rest of your life. 16 murders. William Burke wasn't digging up bodies, he was creating them, smothering victims in their sleep and selling them fresh to the anatomists. And the surgeons, the respected men of medicine, they never asked questions, never wondered why Burke's corpses never had grave dirt on them, why they were always so remarkably fresh, why they appeared so reliably and frequently. Because asking questions might interrupt the supply, and the supply was everything. That conversation haunts you. You understand the temptation. Those nights when you couldn't find fresh corpses, when you'd already spent the payment mentally, when you walked past homeless people and thought, just for a second, how easy it would be. You never did it, but understanding you could have, that breaks something. If your mind is reeling at how this became a functioning economy, you're exactly who this channel exists for. Hit like if this is the bizarre history you're here for, and subscribe. We've got more stories about the dark machinery behind progress. Here's where it gets weird. You're barely a criminal, legally. A corpse isn't property under British common law. It belongs to no one. You cannot steal what nobody owns. Grave robbing? Misdemeanor. Maybe a fine, maybe jail. But take the dead woman's ring? That's theft. That's the gallows. The resurrection trade operates in a bizarre legal gray zone. Medical schools need bodies. The law says only executed criminals, but there aren't enough. Edinburgh's medical school needs 500 bodies yearly. The courts provide maybe 10. 490 corpses have to come from somewhere. Everyone knows you exist. Newspapers write about you. Churches condemn you. Surgeons pay you. Every week, reliable as clockwork. The price list is standardized. Adult male, good condition, 8 pounds, 6 months' wages. Adult female, 6 pounds. Children, 12 pounds per foot. Then there's the premium market. Pregnant woman, 20 pounds. Unusual deformity, 30 pounds or more. Rare disease, name your price. One resurrection man sold a giant's body for 60 pounds, retirement money. Surgeons want variety because each body teaches something different. And they're right. Every medical textbook, every anatomical diagram, every surgical technique saving lives today, all learned by cutting open human bodies, many stolen from graves. That surgeon who bought the 10-year-old girl's body, he learned a heart valve technique that's now standard practice. Thousands of children survived because of what he learned from one dead child's stolen corpse. So maybe you're not a ghoul. Maybe you're a necessary evil, a midnight laborer in medical progress. Then you dig up a 7-year-old boy and the thought evaporates. The week Burke is executed, everything shifts. The trade was always risky. Now it's war. Families are terrified. The wealthy install mort safes, iron cages over graves. They don't work. You wait for decomposition, then remove the cage. The truly wealthy build private crypts with armed guards. Those graves you never touch. Know what that means? Only poor bodies get stolen. Medical schools run on poor corpses while training doctors serving the rich. You notice which neighborhoods provide product: workhouses, tenements, debtors' cemeteries. One night, digging in a pauper's graveyard, something clicks. This dead man probably worked in a factory enriching some merchant. That merchant's daughter will someday need surgery by a surgeon who learned on bodies like this. You're maintaining a cycle. But rent is due. Then you hear it, a metallic click below your spade. You throw yourself backward. Box shot tears through where your head was. Your ears ring for a week. Spring-loaded trap gun. You start carrying a pistol, but for protection from whom? Dead families? Other gangs? The law? 2 weeks later, another crew arrives at your grave. 4 men claiming territory. Shovels raised. You're ready to kill over the right to rob a grave. If they take this body, you can't pay rent. One swings at your head. You duck. Your partner cracks someone's knees, screaming, bleeding, and beneath you, a dead woman oblivious to the battle. The crew runs. You finish the exhumation, deliver the body, collect payment. That night, you drink until you can remember your name. You nearly killed someone for money. 8 months later, your body makes the decision your mind couldn't. You're in a wealthy section, risky but profitable, when you hear footsteps, the deceased's family, waiting for people like you. 5 of them, clubs, nowhere to run. They beat you until ribs crack, shatter your right hand, the same hand that's pulled dozens of corpses. You're screaming, begging. One stands over you. You're not human. You're a ghoul. They leave you in the grave, bleeding next to the coffin. A carter finds you at dawn, takes you to a doctor who sets your bones without questions. You see it in his eyes, disgust mixed with something else. Gratitude? Doctors like him learned on corpses people like you provided. Your hand heals wrong, fingers bent, can't grip a shovel, physically can't work the trade. But that's not why you never go back. One night recovering, you have a nightmare. You're the corpse, in your coffin, aware but unable to move. You feel hands breaking through the wood, feel yourself dragged out, examined, priced, feel the scalpel cutting while you scream silently. You wake realizing, someday you will be the corpse. Someone might do to you what you've done to others. That thought breaks something already fractured. The Anatomy Act passes in 1832. Medical schools can use unclaimed bodies from workhouses. No more resurrection men needed. The trade collapses overnight. You find factory work, terrible, long hours, barely enough pay, but honest. You can tell people what you do. You can sleep without dreaming of hands pulling you from earth. Mostly. Years later, you see medical students heading to anatomy lectures, clean, educated, respectable,
future physicians. You think about the bodies that taught their professors, bodies you stole from grieving families. No pride, no shame, just hollow acceptance. You were a resurrection man. You violated graves, profited from death, and somewhere a surgeon performs procedures only possible because of bodies like the ones you stole. Progress isn't clean. Someone always pays. Usually people like you, desperate enough to do what needs doing, disposable enough to be forgotten. You just spent 20 minutes learning about people who robbed graves for a living. Were they wrong? Not legally, the law barely cared. Not economically, they met genuine demand. But morally, that's where it gets complicated. Every medical advancement we take for granted was learned by cutting open a human body. Every life-saving surgery, every anatomical discovery, all built on corpses, many stolen. The surgeons who bought those bodies became the founding fathers of modern medicine. The students developed techniques saving millions. The resurrection men, history doesn't remember their names. Here's the disturbing part. The resurrection men were criminals who traumatized families and desecrated the dead. They were also essential workers in the medical revolution. Both things are true, simultaneously. We like to think we're more civilized. We have body donation programs, ethical committees, legal frameworks. But the problem remains. Medical progress requires human bodies. Somebody has to make that happen. The resurrection men are long dead. No monuments, no recognition. But that surgery your grandmother had, that was possible because someone learned the technique on a body they shouldn't have had access to. You just discovered history most people never consider. If that was worth your time, hit like so this reaches others who appreciate how complicated history is. Subscribe for more stories about the dark machinery behind progress. And comment, if you were starving in 1752 Edinburgh, would you have taken that coin? I don't know what I would have done. That uncertainty is the most disturbing part.